In the game of loans, you either win or you learn. Welcome to the game of loans, where fortunes are forged and empires are built. Your hosts, lords of lending and wholesaling, are here to guide you through the realm of real estate and wealth building. Brace yourselves, cash flow is coming. Welcome to episode number 24. Can't fucking believe it's 24. I have with me my co-host, Melissa Barone. And for this episode, we are going to be talking about going in depth a little bit on new construction. And just for context, and you can, chime in on it. I would say 4 years ago, new construction maybe at best was like 5 to 10% of our business. It was mostly fix and flip and just straight up fucking bridge and DSCR. It was massive for us 4 years ago. But today, new construction is like 70% of our business. Was that the same before you worked with me?
My volume was definitely heavier in the fix and flip space.
And bridge?
And bridge,
okay.
Yep. And now I want to say 80% of my volume is new construction.
New construction.
Again, I'm targeting Nashville as much as possible, right? So yes, I lend nationwide. I have clients all over the country, but I'm really trying to hone in and own this territory and make myself known here. So my focus, within the last 6 months has really been targeting this area. And specifically within Nashville, because of the property values, it makes a lot more sense for a new construction deal than it does for a fix and flip deal.
I agree. And I think fix and flip, there's a scarcity, at least in the Nashville market, just because the rates are still pretty high, right? So there's not really much movement, and there's not going to be much movement on deals that make sense. And most of the shit that we're seeing on the fix and flip is in like tertiary, shit-ass markets that we really don't want to even lend in. But also I feel like the fix and flip market has kind of, A, it's dried up. B, it's kind of gotten commoditized, right? Where you have companies like, I'd say fucking Kiabi, that are willing to drop their pants on deals that don't even make sense, just to bring in the volume.
Yeah.
Just to feed the beast.
What I am seeing when it comes to fix and flip or a fixer is fix and hold, right? So because maybe there's not that profit margin in the deal that makes sense, but to hold the property does, right? It just depends. It depends on the market. It depends on the numbers. But the fix and flip deals that I have, or fix and hold, I should say, they're definitely out there. So what I'm seeing more of also is that with multifamily. So I am getting, a nice deal flow. So on the smaller units, especially in
California,
New York, New Jersey. So you have a lot. What I'm seeing is they're taking, let's say, a quad, so 4 units, and then turning it into 8.
It's exactly. So funny because, in New York, especially when you go above 5 units, then you're fucked, because then you have the rental restriction laws, like rent control. It becomes rent control and stuff like that. So for the longest time back in the day, when I was in the business in New York, what we were doing was taking 8-unit properties and turning them into 4 units. We were taking 6 units, turning them to 3. We were taking 12 units, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but we were making sure that it was below actually 5
units.
But really even below 5 units, because most of the financing was FHA financing. And you can't finance a 5 unit.
Nope.
So we would just fucking create these big ass, 4-unit, 3-unit, 2-unit fucking properties back in the day. It's just so surprising to me that now they just don't give a fuck. Like you said, they're taking what did you say, 4-unit and converting it to 8-unit?
Yeah, well, what they're doing is they're not expanding the footprint.
Right. They're just cutting it up.
Exactly. Yeah. So they're making
micro units.
Exactly.
Right.
So 400 square foot units, right. But rents are so high in New York. Debt services. Yeah. Right. So it makes sense.
Yeah. I'm just saying it's just so funny how trends change.
Yeah.
If you would have fucking told me that 20 years ago that was going to happen, I would have been like, get the fuck out of here. That just doesn't make sense. But now, because remember, like you said, I guess rent went up to a point where now those 4 units don't even make sense.
Yeah.
So now they're converting the 4 units back into 8 units.
Yep. Exactly.
So it's pretty big. That's good. So you're getting a lot of those conversions from bigger units to smaller units. So macro to micro units.
Yep.
And then, but you have a tremendous push. And I think you said that somebody from California reached out to you on social media.
They did. Yep. So Monterey, Carmel by the Sea.
The hood.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah. No, absolutely.
For the poor folk.
For the poor folk.
Yeah, for the poor folk.
Beautiful, stunning area.
Yeah. I know if you don't know that area, it's fucking beautiful.
Yep.
It is gorgeous. A lot of people hate on California, but it's the most beautiful state, hands down.
It's stunning
country.
There.
Yeah.
And
especially there, Carmel. It's probably the nicest.
He is a builder. He's been a GC for many years.
Okay.
And has done, a handful of spec homes as well.
Okay.
And he's looking to expand his portfolio and continue to grow.
Yeah.
And the banks don't necessarily allow that, right? Because you have exposure limits and what he's building may be beyond the loan limits for a bank.
Right.
Because in that area, you're talking exit values of 4 million plus.
Yeah. And that's cheap.
And that's cheap.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's going to be a smaller property.
Yeah. That's affordable housing in Carmel.
Exactly.
4 million.
Exactly. So, that's that's the perfect client for us, right? So it's going to be those high clients. I love those clients. Yeah. I have another one in Florida who does the same thing. So primarily in Fort Lauderdale.
Another hood.
Another hood, exactly. Fort Lauderdale, Boca.
Okay.
And he's doing same exit value, roughly 4 million.
Yeah.
Properties probably larger than the ones we were just talking about.
Well, different market.
Different market. Yeah. But again, Florida is similar to Nashville. It makes a lot more sense to do new construction versus a fix and flip.
Yeah. But you brought something up, and you said spec. So I just want to clarify for our viewers, what is a spec and what is a custom? So when we're talking about a custom home is when a end user, someone who wants to live in the house, is going to hire a GC usually or a builder to build a customized house for them that they're going to move into, right? So they'll hire somebody, they pay for everything, and then they give the builder a certain fee.
Yep. And they're the ones doing the financing as well.
Then they're financing it.
Yep.
When we're talking spec, which stands for speculative,
yep,
it's a builder that's actually buying the land themselves. They're taking the money, they're putting the money out themselves, they're borrowing the money themselves. They're building a home to their own specifications that they think is going to probably sell best in that particular market, right?
Exactly.
They're taking on all the risk. And then they're speculating, they're owning that, and then they're going to sell that product to an end user.
Exactly.
Right? And it's a big difference between those two.
Well, it's a big difference, especially from a lending aspect, right?
Yep.
And reason
and
being
risk.
is and
risk on the builder side.
So the reason being why a lender wants to see experience on title is because there's a difference in managing a project just from a building aspect versus managing every aspect of that project, including the financing, timing. You're responsible for a lot more, right? It's higher risk. So from a lending aspect, we do want to see that you have had experience with every aspect of the deal, including being on title, acquiring the land, obtaining a loan, or maybe not necessarily, right? If they have the money and they did it themselves, but so long as they're the ones or their entity was the ownership on that project.
But I'll tell you something funny. I guarantee if you did the numbers and you went, and if you found someone that does spec and they do custom, which we know a lot of them, I guarantee if you saw the timeline between a spec home and a custom home, obviously there's more shit involved. You have to deal with fucking human beings and people bitching and complaining. But I guarantee that when that guy's balls are on the line and he's borrowed that money, he's going to fucking make sure that home goes up way faster than the custom house.
Absolutely.
You know, because, and that's the whole point. We want to make sure.
Well, you have carrying costs.
Well, you have carrying costs and your balls are on the line, right? So that's why for us it's important. We want to see, hey, it's great that you fucking build homes on somebody else's dime.
Yeah.
What have you fucking done on your dime?
Exactly.
Right? How fast have you moved on your dime?
Exactly.
And that's the issue. So that's where both of us, right? We get pushback. Well, I've built fucking 50 homes. Well, you didn't build one for yourself.
Yeah.
You never fucking put your balls on the line. You never went out borrowed the money. You've never been on the hook for shit. I mean, it's great to fucking use somebody else's OPM and make a 15-20% fee. You could be lax.
Yeah.
But what happens when your foot's on the fire? You know, what happens when your balls are in the vice? What's happening then?
Yeah. What type of product are you building? How are you marketing that? How quickly do you sell? You know, things we've discussed on prior episodes is it an over improvement for the area? Right. So what type of product
or under improvement
right? Whatever it may
I think
be.
That's even worse. I think what ends up happening is sometimes these guys are building fucking homes in luxury markets, and the fucking house is not even luxury or up to par to what they're trying to sell for.
Yeah, the number that they need,
right? The number that they need. But
exactly.
It's not fucking, it doesn't match up.
It's not comparable.
It's not comparable.
Yep.
You know, in their mind, well, it's 5,000 square feet. That's fucking great. It's 5,000 square feet. But look what you've done inside the house.
Yep.
It's shit. Maybe, or, you're building a medium class house in a fucking luxury house.
Yep.
You know, and
in a luxury market.
In a luxury market. And I think they just, some of these builders don't realize that. They go back to the square footage. Well, this is the square footage.
Yeah.
You know, where it could be 1,000 square feet less, but it could be worth a lot more because of some of the finishings and some of the other shit that these people did, you know?
Yeah, there's so many aspects that are important to it. So the layout of the property, right?
Yes. So I think the biggest challenge with speccing in the luxury market is that someone who's going to drop $7 million or $4 million or $5 million, you have got to make sure that you leave nothing to that fucking imagination. Yeah. There should be nothing. There should be nothing left that these motherfuckers willing to put in themselves.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So if you are a custom builder, I think you have a leg up because then you get to see, hey, these are the customers that are, and this is the shit that they keep asking for.
Yes.
They want, I don't know, warm seated fucking bathrooms. Like who the fuck thinks about that?
Yeah.
They want a fucking bidet that shoots up and cleans their ass. They want the floor to be heated when they're going, to the bedroom, to the fucking bathroom at some point. I've seen this shit. Believe me, I swear to God. My cousin, okay, who's a biggest fucking builder, it's custom builder in Long Island right now. Believe it or not, what he started doing is they're putting heaters now on the driveways.
Oh, wow.
So when it snows,
they can melt it.
And it melts. You don't need anyone to come and clean it. So for him, every once in a while, just because he's so busy, when he builds a custom house, I'm like, dude, you should just fucking cut. But he builds custom homes better than like anyone could imagine anything, right? And I'm like, why don't you do? He's got the sickest experience. I'm like, you have this experience. Why don't you just go into custom? He's like,
you mean spec?
I mean spec. Why don't you just spec everything? Like, he's like, I'm passing the business on to my boys.
Yeah.
I have so many customers that come, and he's just building spec homes now in different places. Yeah. I got to be honest with you. His clients are crazy. I tell him all the time, you should just say to your clients, shut the fuck up.
I know what I'm doing.
And I will deliver you a fucking house.
Yeah.
That will make your head spin.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can think about. Yeah. Just let me do it. Yeah. Tell me how many bedrooms you want, somewhat of a layout, and shut the fuck up and go to the side and let me show you what I'll build you. You know? The problem is, and don't take offense because you are female.
Offense taken already.
Is, believe it or not, it's the wives usually that don't have that trust in it, and they want to have a say, and they're usually fucking up the situation.
I know we like to control things.
Well, you like to control things.
Men fuck up shit.
We fuck up a lot of stuff. No. Don't get me wrong. We probably fuck up more stuff than women fuck up. I do agree. But I think in this particular instance, it's better for the wives just to have some sort of trust instead of wanting to have to say in whatever the fuck it is. And then the outcome, the funny thing is, a lot of the times they'll have to say, and he'll say, this is a bad idea.
Yeah.
They don't fucking believe it, right?
And then they hate it.
And then you know what? Change it. And he says, no problem. Stroke another fucking check for $1 million and I'll change it.
Yeah.
And you'll be surprised. I asked him, I said, how many times does that happen? He said, probably 75% of the time.
Oh, wow.
75% of the times.
Yeah.
When he says don't, and they do, they cut a check to change it.
Yeah.
And you know what he says to me? He goes, the other 25%, they're ashamed to even tell me that they fucked up. So they just live with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's 100% probably in his mind. He's like, it's that I'm not going to concede that I fucked up. I'm just going to fucking live with whatever I did.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. Like, I've had multiple conversations with Marina, my wife, and she's like, it would be great to, one day if we could build a house for ourselves, I said to her, absolutely not.
Why?
I'm just going to go out
and find the one that you like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing. I'm going to go out and buy a brand new construction with a trusted, well-known
builder,
luxury builder. And I'm going to make sure that there was nothing left to the imagination instead of me having to recreate something. The other thing is, so she has one of her best friends and they want to build a custom home.
Yep.
Okay. They've got a lot of money. They're well-to-do, and they're going to build something crazy. What I told her was, you have to be careful because what's on your mind might create a situation where you're going to have a very tough time selling that property. Yeah,
absolutely.
When it comes time.
And people don't take that into consideration.
They don't.
Yeah.
So unless you have...
A builder does.
They do. Right? So, because they do.
Because they're marketing to the mass.
Correct.
Yes.
So, unless you have real fuck you money, or you're a billionaire, you don't give a shit. Yeah. You could shit on fucking 15 million because you're probably making that in a week.
Yep.
Who gives a fuck?
Yep.
Right? But if you're a millionaire, I would even say, if you're fucking, you're worth 100 million, listen, 10 million is going to hurt your fucking pocket. Yeah. That's 10% of your net worth. Like, that's no joke. So I explained that to her. I said, you're all gung-ho, and I know how you get. A, you're probably going to go way over budget. The house is going to cost you more than what it's going to fetch.
Yeah.
And B, it's going to be so custom to you that no one else is probably going to want it. Yeah. Or if they want it, they're going to have you. It's going to sit there and it's going to have to come at a big time discount.
Yeah.
So I actually bought one of those homes, believe it or not.
Okay.
And I had explained to my wife.
It's the Steve show. I'm not allowed to talk this
No,
episode.
you are. No, but I'm explaining this. So with the house, you've been to my house.
Yeah.
With the house that I currently own.
Yep.
The position of the master bedroom is right in the front.
Okay.
And no one really wants that.
Yeah.
And this was a custom home.
Yep.
And when we bought the house, I told my wife, I said, this is going to be a major issue. The lucky for her is I'm a fucking genius and I've been in this business because why? But what I have to do if I ever want to sell it, but I'm going to do it anyway when I have the time, I've got to convert the master bedroom, add more square footage to it to make it like a fucking stadium.
Yep.
Then I have to go so crazy on the master bathroom.
Okay. When
motherfuckers walk in, they're like
blown away.
Holy shit! Did you see that bathroom?
Yeah.
And you're a woman.
That's what sells the property.
How important is that bathroom?
It's one of the most important things.
Right.
Absolutely.
So and the closet. So now I've got to
kitchen, bathroom, closets.
Here we go.
Yeah.
So now the master closet, I've got to make sure that motherfucker also is just next level.
Yep.
The bathroom has got to be 10x, way superior than anything else in the market.
Yep.
Right? Then I have to do the kitchen. I got to do the same thing. Yep. I got to throw so much money at the kitchen that, again, somebody walks in, they're like, holy shit, did you see that kitchen?
Yeah.
Did you see what that motherfucker looked like? Then I'm now forced to put a pool in and make sure that I have a sick pool and the backyard is immaculate.
Yep.
Then I'm actually going to probably fetch more money than if it was, an ordinary house. Or at least I could go up market.
Yep.
But that's what I need to do.
Yeah.
Just to make up for the fact that I bought somebody else's
custom. Yep.
And, and the fact of the matter is that particular house probably would have had a problem selling like in today's market.
Sure.
But when I bought it, the market was so hot.
Yeah.
And, my wife, she went into the house. I knew on her face, I'm like, I'm fucked. There's nothing even to say. It's finished.
Well, what year did you buy?
3 years ago.
So 21, 22?
2021, yeah.
So 4 years ago, yeah. The other thing is buyers were under so much pressure because things were going
so fast,
at a rapid pace.
You remember, you did the same thing.
There was limited inventory.
Yeah, you couldn't.
And, you were almost forced into like, okay, do I have the opportunity to buy this?
I know.
Okay, then yes. What do I have to do?
So, like you said, it's funny because everybody wants the market to get hot to start investing. I'm like, you guys are assholes.
Yeah.
Right now you have 3 people bidding on the house. You're going to have 25 people bidding on the house, and you're going to pay way more than it's worth, like me. But I realized when we were buying a house, she actually wanted a new house in West Haven, okay? Mm-hmm. But they were putting this shit up in 4 months.
Yeah.
Right? I'm like, this is shit.
Yeah.
So I was okay buying an older house. I mean, my house is from 2010. Like, it's not old. Relatively speaking in the world, it's not old.
Yeah.
I knew it was custom, so I was okay with it. I knew that the people actually gave a shit.
Yep.
And had some input into it, right? So it was going to be way better built.
Yep.
Right? And so when everybody else was going after the brand new homes in my community, I told my wife, I said, nix the brand new homes. This shit's going to fall apart, which it is. I don't know if you know anything what's going on in West Haven. Cabinets are fucking falling down. Roofs, like, everyone's going back to the builders, and it's just the homes are falling apart.
Yeah, that's
when
rough.
you put something up that fast,
yep.
When you put that much pressure on your workers, they're going to fuck up.
They're going to skip steps.
And they're going to skip steps. Yep. And it's not even their fault. There's so much pressure on them. Fast. They just can't keep up with the fucking work. So when I did that, there wasn't that much competition. There was. I mean, there was somewhat competition.
Sure.
But I was able to get the house at least at a decent price.
Yep. Yeah. So let's pivot real quick.
Now you get to talk.
I know. Jeez. what I wanted to say, just to kind of circle back to what we started talking about earlier with custom versus spec and the builders, and from the lending aspect, is even though we do prefer to have that experience on title, investor funding will still lend to a custom builder who does not have on title experience.
We're one of the few people that do.
Yes, one of the few. And, because it's a higher risk, there is going to be a leverage reduction. But with that said, we're still going to lend money to those individuals, right?
Even on fix and flippers.
And first time fix and flippers, absolutely. But specific to builders who are custom home builders who can show a proven track record, right, with contracts and certificate of occupancy, permits, things of that nature, we will lend you money so that you can do your first spec home, right? And that opens the floodgates for these individuals because now they're getting experience on paper and they can continue to grow. Right? They're not necessarily stuck in that custom area and they can do spec, make more profit. And that's a great thing.
Yeah. But, to elaborate, they have to have custom experience.
Absolutely.
Because we got a lot of people, especially me, when we do this stuff, right? Or when I was, I did one of the videos, on one of the homes that we did for some of our builders. I got a barrage of messages from people. I want to get into the building business. I want to start building. I want to do this. Give me money. And with zero experience. Or you have fix and flippers. Well, I fixed and flipped 200 homes. That's fucking great. Congratulations. Did you build one house? No. Have you done any major construction on any of your flips? No. Lipstick jobs. Well, it's apples and oranges. And then what I tell them, and they take offense to, which is mind-boggling to me, is, hey, go get a fucking partner. Learn how to do this, even on 2 or 3 transactions.
Exactly.
I'm not even, besides saying it for me, for my protection, I'm saying it for you and your protection. Go find a partner up with that has a fucking brain that's done this shit. Learn how they do it. And then get into the business.
Get 2 under your belt. Exactly.
What is it that they always say? Well, I have a GC. I have a great GC that's built 400
Have
homes.
the GC go on the
That's
deal.
what I say. I go, no problem. Tell the GC to go on. Oh, he's never going to do that. Well, then that's your fucking problem. Tell him you're going to give him a piece of the action. Have him go on there.
Well,
I don't want to do that. Well, you know what? On my dollar? No problem. You fund the whole fucking thing on your dollar.
So the other thing that I'll run into are individuals who work for a builder. Right? And they're like, look, I have plenty of experience.
Framers.
Well, unfortunately, that's not going to cut it. So, to reiterate, yes, we will lend to custom builders, but who are a GC and who are listed on those permits, who are listed as the builder of record. It can't be an individual who works under a builder.
Correct.
Right? It's not the same.
It's not the same.
Nope.
And that's very, very important. And again, let's say this. If you are a fix and flipper and you've done major construction on your fix and flips, we will consider that as experience too, right? Now, let's talk about major experience. That means, let's take easy numbers. If you
mean major rehab.
Major rehab, right? So if you've bought a house for $250,000 and needs $250,000 worth of fucking work, and then it's going to be worth $750,000, that's major construction, right? It's not, I bought a house for $200,000 and needed $25,000 worth of work. I flipped it for $300,000. God bless you. That was a good deal. But that's lipstick job.
Exactly.
What'd you do? You fucking painted the walls and painted
backsplash.
You just fucking did nothing. Changed out the kitchen, which any asshole could do, and so that's important, right? That's so we will do it for fix and flippers with experience doing major.
Yes, we're talking rehab. Full gut rehab, right
gut
down
rehab.
To the stud.
Yes, like guys that are buying fucking burnouts. Or homes that are partially, demolished or things like that. Those are the guys that we will count that towards your experience. So if you've done those, give Melissa a call.
Absolutely.
What I've said, my other previous guest came in and reiterated, again, this is my show, fuck you. So, so Mike reiterated, right? My other guest came in and reiterated that I'm a fucking genius, all right? And that there's two sectors that are good sectors. That makes sense today. That is affordable housing and luxury unaffordable housing. And the motherfuckers that are in the middle are the ones that are getting squeezed because they can't get out of those properties.
I'm shaking my head, but I'm not actually listening to you.
Okay.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Keep going.
I don't need you. You're just a pretty face. Just sit there and just fucking listen to what I'm saying to you. But I do see that. But I will tell you what. In that middle market, there's a group that I tried to get to work with us, but they're getting money from a bank.
Yep.
They're killing everyone in that middle market because there are people still buying homes.
Yep.
It's not like no one in that middle market is buying a house.
Yep.
They're buying it a lot less, like fewer than they were 4 years ago, but there's still activity. Why is it, do you think, that these fucking guys are selling homes like hotcakes and everybody else is sitting there looking at each other?
I mean, it just, what do you mean? Sorry.
Why is it that these guys that are building homes in the middle market for the middle class and upper middle class that I say is the worst market to build for?
Why do you think that?
I know. Well, it is.
Yeah.
It's in a recession, in a down market, the middle class homes, those middle market homes are the ones that get suppressed and don't move as fast as anywhere else. Affordable housing moves off the shelves. Unaffordable housing, luxury also, because they don't need financing. They're buying these homes usually cash. It's the guys in the middle that always have to push a little bit to be able to buy a home that's a little bit out of their range.
Sure.
Those are the homes that always sit.
Yep. So why are these guys able to move the product?
Take a guess.
Yeah. I don't know.
Because their product is far superior than the next guy's.
Okay.
So what ends up happening is they have the fucking Taj Mahal homes, right?
Sure.
In that market. So
what market is this?
It's right here in Nashville.
Oh, in Nashville. Okay.
Okay. But these guys are the only ones that are killing it in that middle market, right? So what happens is they'll take the smart realtor, will take him to a shitty one, right?
Yep.
Then a halfway shitty one. Then to a three-quarter shitty one.
Yeah.
And then they step into this one at the same price range.
Yeah.
And they're like, holy shit. And then they sign right away.
Yep.
Because the smart realtor knows what to do. They're not showing them the nice house first. They're going to take him, oh, this is a brand new construction. And they go, oh, this is a brand nice one. And then they go to the second one. Oh, this is way nicer. And then they go to theirs and they're like, oh, wow, this is the same thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's maybe $5,000.
What's setting them apart?
That's the homes, the finishing. Yo, the homes that they're delivering.
Yeah.
The product, the way that they set up, the material that they're using, everything that they're using is far superior. They're not cheaping out.
Yeah.
You know? And that's why they're moving the product so much faster than everybody. They don't have any competition here in Nashville.
Yeah.
And I tried to get them for us.
Who is it?
I forget their names. It's two guys. I met them at a fucking Mexican restaurant. They have sick financing with you know.
Yeah. Well, we have several clients like that, right?
Yeah, but these guys, they just, you know, they've been doing it. They're good old boys from here. They're from here, and they've got these relationships, and you know, and they're moving this product so fast that you know, the banks are just loving life.
Yeah, fuck banks.
Fuck banks.
I know.
Fuck you, Chase.
Yeah. There's one specifically here. I'm not going to name names because I don't want to give people ideas.
Yeah, fuck you too.
Yeah.
Does it begin with a W?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Fuck you, W.
Yeah. It does.
Yeah.
It does begin with the W.
Yeah. Fuck those guys.
Fuck those guys.
Yeah.
So another thing, again, we are seeing a lot of build to rent as well,
BTR.
right?
Yep.
So I just personally closed a deal for someone who's doing 30 townhomes in Nashville. And you know, great, well-known builder. So he already has that known, right? So realtors are going to already know his product is superior. But that's another thing that we are seeing a lot of, and it is becoming successful.
So he's doing a BTR for himself?
Build to rent, correct.
For himself?
Now, the thing is that he got such a steal on the land, right? That there was so much equity in the deal that even he can sell them and maybe not make as much profit, but because he got such a steal on the land itself, his profit is still going to be huge. Right?
If he doesn't sell them. If he refinances them.
Either way is what I'm saying. Right. Even if he sells it less than what maybe it's appraised for, just to get rid of them, right? And does a fire sale and sells all of them.
If he wants to.
If he wants to.
But he's not wanting to. Because his cost basis is so low.
Correct.
So that's important. That's important to basically talk about. If your cost basis is low enough, you can actually keep this shit.
You can.
Or you can even do a cash out refinance.
Yep.
Take the cash out, right?
Use the equity.
A portion of it. And
start another project.
Start another project. Exactly. And the cash that you pull out on the refinance, as opposed to selling, there's no capital gains. There's no fucking tax. You're getting that money for free. So even what I try to tell people is, when you're doing a cash out, maybe you're not pulling 100% of your equity, but you're getting the same amount. So if you're capped at 75 and you're leaving 25% of equity in there, if you would have sold it for 100%, right? 25% more, that 25% was never going to be yours. That was capital gains tax that was going to the fucking government to go shit on. Right? So it comes out to be the same shit. So if you don't need to sell and you can cash out, you're basically taking what you were going to take as if you were going to sell.
As your exit value.
As your exit value.
Profit.
At 75 LTV.
And now
a lot of people don't realize that.
Income producing portfolio. And you were able to use the equity from that portfolio to start another project. And just rinse and repeat.
Burr method.
Burr.
Burr.
So one thing that we're seeing that successful builders are doing versus a rookie, and Steve really touched on this already, is, understanding what a good product is, right? Specifically in the luxury market, if you're trying to sell a property for $4 million, the seasoned pros understand what the clientele is looking for as far as high-end luxury goes, right? Those high-end finishes, not a shit paint job, getting the right team together, and giving a product that is going to be beautiful, right? So versus somebody who's also going to sell the same property for $4 million, but they did a shit job in doing it. So that's really going to be the difference between a seasoned pro and a rookie within that high-end luxury market.
You can't, again, with my previous guest, what we discussed is you can't fake it till you make it in luxury. You're just going to get fucking crushed. And I talked about, we're not going to say who, the house that we visited on the open house. And everybody, especially us, we were like, who did this fucking staging? Like, what the fuck? That was horrible. Which, even down to that aspect, you can't fuck up. And shame on whoever it was that did the staging.
It sold.
Did it?
Sold 2 days later.
How much was it?
4.6.
It's fucking amazing.
God
bless him. But still, I know it sold. But
I agree.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like, it's not like, even down to your staging.
Yes.
Like, if it was me and you, like, that motherfucker would have looked like the Taj Mahal.
Yes.
Like, you would have walked into that fucker.
And been
if I was asking for fucking 4.6, you would have cut a check for $5 million. You know what I'm saying? It was so underwhelming.
It was.
And I get that it sold. But still.
The construction of it was beautiful.
The construction. Right? But look, shame on the fucking realtor. Honestly. It's.
The staging was cheap.
Was shit. And it wasn't just us, you know? It was like.
So all these people follow me. We're not going to throw this on my page.
You're going to throw it on mine. No, but we're talking about staging because that's important.
It is.
It's
very important.
What the fuck we're talking about.
Design is key. So
how about this?
Yep.
The design of that house was gorgeous.
Yes.
I love that whole courtyard shit.
Yes.
You know,
It was beautiful.
That's my favorite.
Yes.
When you have that courtyard,
yep.
I fucking love that.
You had the balcony that looked over it.
I love it. I love it. I love the whole fucking thing.
Yes.
There's only one thing I would have probably changed in that whole thing.
What?
Was that if I have a pool and I'm in a courtyard, then I have to have a big window from my master bedroom looking over the pool. And I have to have access through that big door.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like I need a wall-to-wall.
Well, if you're spending $5 million, you should have a wall-to-wall window and be able to black it out, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Press something that it blacks out, because they have that. But I want to have a full view of the pool from my bed. Yeah. And then I need to have access, just walk right through the fucking middle. I get why they didn't do it, because I guess the way it was, they want to have a TV or something. Yeah. But you could always mount that TV from the roof. Yeah. You know? Yeah. So that was my only gripe with that house. Sure. And the staging was just shit.
Yeah, the staging was not great.
Was not good. So,
but they went over the top with everything else.
They did go over the top.
Caviar bar, sushi bar.
Everything, but you have to.
Acrobats.
And that's great. That's I give a fucking round of applause to the builder. Yeah. Round of applause to the builder. Yep. You know, for doing that. Yep. And we can't even fault maybe the realtor, because whoever was in charge of that staging, just kind of fucking failed. Yeah. Right? So the whole point here is, if you're going to go luxury, right?
Do it in every aspect.
Every aspect. Yep. Right? Leave nothing to the imagination. Yep. Don't cheap out. You can't. Nope. You know, it's a fucking mistake.
Be mindful, right? You don't want to overspend where you don't need to.
I agree.
But yes, don't cheap out in the areas that are going to be most important.
But let's be honest. Yeah. He's probably making an easy $2 million on that.
For sure.
Okay?
Yeah.
So if the staging is fucking $20,000, should have spent fucking $50,000. Yeah. Wasn't going to break the motherfucking bank on that.
Agreed.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Now, did it make a difference? Maybe not, but I'll tell you the difference that it made. For the people that are in the game, they walked away a little bit underwhelmed just because of the staging. Sure. And we weren't the only ones, by the way. Yeah. You know? Yeah. I had conversations with 2 other people that were there. They brought it up to me. Yeah. So it was so underwhelming that it was a topic of conversation. Yeah.
And that's not a bad topic.
Right. Yeah. That's a bad topic. Yep. You want people the topic of conversation to be, did you walk into that motherfucker? Yeah. Holy shit. Yep. Like, there was gold fucking hanging out from the ceiling. It's like, did you fucking see that shit? It wasn't like that.
There was a woman hanging from the ceiling.
There was. But
there was.
You know, they made up for it though with the caviar and shit. I mean, it was a good event.
It was.
It was a good event.
It was a good event.
So if I were to build
sculptures, people taking shots from it. Yeah.
If I were to build today, that would be the market I would go after. Yeah. I would not go after any other market but that luxury market. Yeah. That would be the only thing. And I would leave nothing to the imagination. Yeah. Nothing. I'm going to make sure that whatever you thought about, I fucking 2x'd. Yeah. So that you walk into that motherfucker and you're like, damn.
This is it.
This is it.
Yeah.
You know? But I would do that, to be honest with you. I would do that in every market. Yeah. I'm going to make sure I deliver the best product in the lower market where I'm going to make a difference. They're going to know me.
And well, reputation's huge, right?
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
They're going to say, you know what? And the realtors are going to know me.
Exactly.
They're going to say, fucking Steve, that motherfucker is always going to deliver. Yep. You know, he's going to deliver. His homes don't fall apart. You know, everybody walks in and they want to buy. And I want to be that person. In the middle market, I want to be that same dude.
In this industry, it's such a small world.
So small.
Everyone knows everyone, right? Yeah. So, of course, networking is key, but delivering is huge. Yep. So being known as somebody that has that superior product, being able to deliver in a timely manner is really going to affect your success.
Yeah. And you're, like you said, your reputation in anything is the most important.
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
And do you remember when we first started talking? You did your due diligence, and there was a mortgage broker.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And he said that I stole money from him.
Yep.
You remember my reaction?
Yeah.
I went fucking berserk.
I know.
Right? And I went berserk because for 35 years, the one thing that I have cherished or protected more than anything is my reputation.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that is so important to me. And when you called me, and you didn't even call me in a bad way.
No.
It was like you were doing your due diligence.
Yeah.
You're like, hey, I spoke to this guy. I want to get business from him. And you said you beat him out of $1,500. And my reaction was, I didn't even know what the fuck you're talking about.
Yeah.
To even be able to answer that.
Yeah.
But I remember telling you, if he could prove that I stole $1,500 from him, I'll give him $15,000. Do you remember I told you that?
Yeah.
I said, I'll fucking 10x whatever he says.
Yeah.
As long as he proves it. I ended up giving him $1,500, which he didn't deserve.
Yeah.
And he knew he didn't deserve it.
Yes.
And do you know that this motherfucker, and I did my job as a person, right? And I said, I will give you $1,500, but at least do some business with us.
Yeah.
And he didn't have the fucking decency to do one deal with me.
He's tried. I tried to do a deal with him, and it went very sideways.
He's tried, but he's so unreasonable with what he wants to earn.
It's not even unreasonable. He sends the shit.
I know.
That's the problem.
That's the problem.
Yes.
But you would think that as a stand-up person, right?
Yes.
Because
Sorry.
I took the high road, right?
Yeah.
To make him whole on something he should have never been whole on.
Yep.
Okay? Just to stop him from fucking even talking shit.
Yep.
Where I should have fucking smacked him in his face for even saying shit. I took the high road. I went southern with him. I said, listen, here's $1,500. Do the right thing. Right? And he didn't do the right thing.
Yeah.
Or he's tried only to fucking try and give us the shit of the shit because he wants to give the better stuff to somebody else to make money.
Yep.
Meanwhile, you would say, you know what? Let me be a gentleman. Return the favor. And I hate people like that.
Yeah.
I don't like people like that.
Yeah.
I really don't. That
well,
hurts
I mean,
me.
he was already working with someone else, so it's not like he's my client. So,
But he should have given us a deal.
100%.
Just
Absolutely.
for that gesture of giving him a free $1,500.
And not the shit.
And not the shit.
Yeah.
And so that's that. That's a lesson to be learned, right? Your reputation. And it's funny, you have a stellar reputation. I told you, there are people that you don't even know about on the secondary market.
Yeah.
Right? On stuff that come to us and they're like, wow, Melissa works for you. She, we've heard good things about her and stuff like that. But really, it's important.
Reputation is everything.
It's everything.
And
I respect that about you because you protect your reputation too.
100%. 100%. And I'm extremely blessed and grateful that I do have so much referral business. But there's a reason, right? Yep. So transparency is key. Honesty is key.
Yep.
Hard work, but my word is everything.
Yeah.
So I'm very mindful when speaking with the client and telling them what I can and can't do, so long as you're transparent as well and are giving me the full story and all the information, then what I tell you, if I say I can do it, I will do it. And
when you're 50-50, you're also very honest.
Yeah.
And you'll say, hey, I'm going to try.
Yep.
And what I respect about you is when you say you're going to try, you never half-ass your try.
No.
You are putting 150% behind your try.
Every time.
I see it. I see it. Personally, I see it. Like, you're like, it's not like you don't say it to appease them, and they don't even see half the shit that you're doing behind the scenes, which is amazing. So we have people obviously in our own organization that are going to be jealous of you, that they're jealous of you. And the funny thing is, I had a conversation, I'm not going to say with who, with somebody that said, that you get favoritism.
Yeah.
And I started laughing.
Yeah.
I said, not only does she not get favoritism, she probably gets more scrutinized on her shit than you guys do because we feel fucking bad that you guys aren't doing business.
Yeah.
So we're probably waving in shit that we shouldn't even fucking wave in for you, which I'm going to talk to my partner and say, fuck this motherfucker for even talking shit, like being ungrateful for what we do for him. And I say, you fucking shut off at 5.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Melissa's working till fucking 2:00 in the morning.
Yeah.
Like, you want success. Success never comes from complaining.
No.
You want to be that person. Go out in your own area. Set up the fucking, client meetings that we do.
Yep.
You don't do any of that shit.
Yeah.
Set up fucking lunches.
Yeah.
Go set up coffees. So I've never told. Have you
bring clients to events?
Bring set up events.
Yeah.
They're not here.
Yeah.
But I've done it with you.
Yeah.
Right. You came proactively. You said, if I come on board, will you help me with this?
Yeah.
And I said, yes.
That's what I wanted. Yeah.
But as a person that you know me, if somebody else wanted to do it, would I tell them no?
No.
And I've expressed that to them. Said, I fucking never said no.
Yeah.
I haven't ever fucking, go out. You want to go take someone to fucking dinner? I'll pay for the fucking dinner. You want to take them to coffee? I'll pay for the dinner, for the coffee. You want to set up an event? I've never said no. I'll fucking gladly pay for that event if you're going to do the work.
Yeah.
Make sure that people are there.
Yep.
And I hate the excuses. I hate the excuses because, again, I'm not saying it because you're here. I say it behind your back. You put your time and money where your mouth is, but that's why you're ultra successful.
Not only that, and one thing that a lot of people don't do, but I hold myself accountable.
Yes.
If I fuck up on something, I immediately will admit fault.
Yes.
Or, hey, this is where I fucked up. This is how we can correct it, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
But people have a very hard time admitting to or holding themselves accountable when something doesn't go right.
Or because they're not where they want to be, right? It's so easy to say, well, you favor this person.
Yeah.
No, there's no fucking favoritism.
Yeah.
So, it's a matter of go out and fucking do the work.
Yeah.
You don't have enough clients? Pick up the motherfucking phone. I've bought $35,000 worth of leads for you that you have access to.
Yep.
That's the difference. The difference is if I'm in their position, you know what I'm doing all day fucking long? I'm going to make phone calls.
Yeah.
I'm going to dial and smile.
Yep.
That's all I'm fucking doing until I get somebody. I'm never going to sit idle.
Yeah.
Right? But that's what makes the great difference between top performers and just fucking normal people, right? It's the difference between the 2%ers and the 98 percenters, right? And my brother-in-law, man, he is, I swear to you, like, I have to have him on the show. His work ethic, it is so crazy. And if you knew how much money he's making good money, right? Do you know that till today, he cold calls 2 hours to 3 hours a day?
Wow. Really?
It is the craziest thing.
Yeah.
And that time is blocked out on his calendar.
Yeah.
You cannot get in contact with him from 10 o'clock, okay, till about 12, maybe 1 o'clock. Yeah. Then you get him, right? Because that's blocked out.
Yep.
So I ask him, I'm like, the other day I asked him, I go, dude, you still fucking cold calling?
Yeah.
He's like, I have to keep my skills honed, man. Yeah. He's like, and I have to stay humble. Yep. He's like, I have to stay humble. And he is still the number one producer in his own organization. Yeah. Because that's what he does. And
it
he
sets him apart.
Oh man. And he leads by example. You know what I'm saying? And it is so impressive to me that he does that on a regular basis. 5 days a fucking week, this motherfucker, But you would figure other people in his position, right, would be like, I'm beneath fucking cold calling. I'm not going to do that. He doesn't give a shit. Yep. He's just pounding and getting people on the phone, and that's it.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. Look, I still reach out to people all the time. I need new business.
Yeah.
So thankfully, I'm very busy, but the minute I have any downtime, I'm like, shit, where's my next deal?
I know.
And I'm out on Instagram, hitting them, sliding in the DM.
No, but look, but that's, that's very important.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, it's like a lot of people, they want to be hand-fed shit.
Yeah.
And they feel entitled.
Yes.
And in this world, that's the problem.
Yep.
It's what can you do for me?
Yeah.
No, motherfucker. There's no one here to save your ass.
Yeah.
You know who's here to save your own ass? You have to save your own ass. There's nobody here.
No.
No one's your mother and no one's your fucking father except your own mother and father.
Yep.
And that's the issue. That's the problem that people don't understand. In my opinion, so I'll go backtrack. When I wanted to get a regular job, okay, and I wanted to get into sales, my mentor in the business told me, he said, make sure that when you're going to leave me, you're going to go into an organization that's doing way more business than I am.
Yep.
And make sure that you're going to look at those salespeople, and the top salespeople are kicking ass way more than our business here.
Sure.
Because if not, whatever they're promising you is complete bullshit.
Yep.
If they're telling you, if no one else is doing it in the organization, it's bullshit. You can do this, but is any motherfucker doing it? No.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So in our own organization, if we have people that are consistently closing 10 million, 15 million, or 12 million a month, what does that mean? That means it's possible.
Absolutely.
Then the platform is set up in a way where you can do that business.
100%. 100%.
And that's just the difference.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm venting, but I have to vent sometimes,
You could speak highly of me all the time.
Make sure you post that shit of me speaking highly of her. This is it. Number 24, Down for the Record Books with Melissa Barone. Peace. You've been listening to The Game of Loans, where real estate battles are fought and won. Make sure to fortify your defenses by subscribing. Cash flow is coming, and we'll be back next time to help you claim your throne. The war of wealth continues.